Hi everyone. Some of the people in the competition circuit that I fish in here in Alberta, in Canada, Western Canada, expressed an interest in a red tag fly that I have posted up on Alberta Fly Fishing. So they wanted me to tie this for them. So I thought I would do that, and I start out the pattern with a jig hook. This particular jig hook is called a 154, and it has a transverse eye. As you can see, it's at a 90-degree angle to the hook shank instead of being inline. So that can be used as a stop on larger beads like this 4mm, and I just find that it works extremely well. So we'll just mount this bead. So what I do to mount the bead to start with is I'll just lay it in place and then take a Bondic UV pin and just kind of fill the gap a little bit here, and that'll help hold the bead in position. You can just do this with thread. I know some people fill this with a tungsten powder, some fill it with lead, burn it in place, and all that works. It's all great. But I just choose the amount of hole in that slot that's cut there. It's not that large. I don't know if it would increase the weight, a noticeable difference anyway. So once it's all in position and it's cured, then I just reposition the hook, and I'll start with my thread. I'm running 18-aught nano silk here. I'll start it in behind the hook or the bead, and then remove the waste. I'll take a small piece of thread, whether it's a floss or whether it's a fluoro bright type of thread for a tail. Both will work. I'll just remove a small piece here, and I'll wrap it around the barrel of my bobbin, place that on top, and lash down material just to the bend of the hook, and then I cut my tag so that it's equivalent length to the back of the bend, and that's my tag. So they're not very long, large tags, so it's just a hot spot. Next I'll run a 2mm wire, a lure wire. That's more than enough for this particular pattern. Again, I'm not trying to add additional weight by overcompensating for the gauge or the size of material I'm working with. So we'll offer this to the side here as well, bringing the wire just short of the bead, a couple of turns, and now I'll add in some peacock herl. I'll run about 3 strands, just match up the feet, and then take off the top inch or so where the material is a little stronger, and then lay that in position as well. And then with touching turns, I'll just wrap that up right in behind the bead. Now what I'll try to do is just spin my peacock herl into a slight rope, and either hand over hand wrap it, or use the rotary function on the vise to apply the peacock herl. Once over top, once in front, once over top the peacock herl, once in front. I'll do that 3 times, kind of scissors the material through the thread and then locks it all into place. I'll remove the excess peacock herl, I'll lay down a half hitch, and now I'll wrap my lure wire in a counterclockwise fashion 4 or 5 turns. Bring that right in behind the bead as well. As you can tell, I'm not leaving a lot of space here right behind the bead head. I just find tying with 18-aught nano silk I don't need to. It works just fine, packing it in fairly tight. So I'm kind of breaking some of the old traditional rules of leaving space, with larger, thicker threads, 8-aught, 6-aught, which most of us are accustomed to tying with. I moved to 12 and 18-aught exclusively for many fly patterns. Because it works. It's more than enough thread, and with these new types of gel spun polys, like the nano silks, they're super strong, so I don't need to use oversized threads any longer. So once I'm behind the hook here, now I'll just build a dubbing loop, which I'll utilize for the CDC. And you don't need to wax the CDC, but you can if you like. So I'll just throw it on for those that like it. I generally don't run a sticky wax. I'll run more of a cobbler's wax that hardens when it gets cold, and a cobbler's wax, a little cake of it, comes in this fashion, and you'll often see me having a small piece of it on my forefinger. So once we've done that, I'll just take a hook and put it into my dubbing loop, and I'll select a nice piece of CDC. You don't want something long. It doesn't have to be overly full. I'll just open the CDC up and remove the lighter colored stuff near the back of the foot, and press this into a bulldog clip. So I have something that looks like that, and then grab it with a second bulldog clip. So we have this type of setup now. I'll remove this foot, remove the front end, and then cut the CDC tight to the stem with a long pair of scissors. And now I'm ready to apply the CDC into the dubbing loop. So I'll just grab the dubbing loop, open it up, add it in, pull the clip back into position, and you can see I have the CDC all nicely placed in position, and now I'll just start to spin it. If it balls up or bundles up a bit, I just brush it out lightly. So my brush has a little Velcro tab on it, and it's easy to pluck the CDC free. I just make sure the rope's good and tight. And once it is, now I'll start to wrap it behind the jig head, and just sweep the CDC back with each turn. And then I'll secure the CDC dubbing loop in place. And again, I can pull this tight. You can see a bit of a buildup. If I pull tight, it just buries itself. That's another advantage of having a very strong thread. You don't have thread showing, and you can be easily buried in quite deep in behind beads, things like that, and it just disappears. So now I generally run a Spectra dubbing. I'll just grab some here. So there's different micro flash dubbings that you can use. for a collar. I particularly prefer on the micro flash, I prefer the 435 on this particular pattern, and I'll just use a very, very small amount of it and spin it on to the thread, dub it on, push that up behind, pull out all the fibers back, CDC fibers, and then just build a small collar right behind the head. Again, your thread shouldn't be showing if you have the appropriate size thread to work with. Even with 2-3 knot whip finish to complete the fly. And remove the thread. Now, a lot of people would just leave the pattern the way it is. I like to brush out the collar behind the bead slightly, just to give it more of a tapering transition into the fly. I think that just works a little bit better for myself. Again, it's what confidence you build up in your patterns. And then once it's sort of complete, I'll pull all the CDC back, and any of the really long fibers I'll just tear away just short of the tail. And that's basically how I build my red tag CDC. Hope that's easy enough. And thank you for watching. Have a wonderful day.